Please welcome Andrew Ross Sorkin and his guest, President and CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zaslav.
I want to welcome David Zaslav to the stage. He, of course, is the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, a portfolio that so many people in this room see and use on a daily basis in terms of Hollywood studios, of course, Max, HGTV, TBS, CNN, Discovery, TNT, the list goes on, TLC, Food Network, Eurosport. Of course, David spearheaded the blockbuster merger between AT&T's Warner Media and Discovery. But as we all know, the streaming world has had its challenges, and Zaslav has had a tough task. He's already paid down about $12 billion in debt. He's got more to go. We'll talk about debt. He started his career as a lawyer. He's led Discovery since 2006, and he is now, dare I say, officially a media titan. I don't know whether he wanted that title or not. This summer, Barbie became Warner Brothers' top-grossing film ever, generating $1.5 billion globally. David, thank you for coming.
Great to see you, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
There's so much to talk about, given all the headlines that we do read about what's happening at Warner. I want to take everybody back, and specifically you in your head, if you could, to May 17th. This is 2021. This is when you were announcing the deal. And what's so interesting about that is that the world was a very different place. The Netflix correction, Reed Hastings was on the stage last year, had not happened. Disney shares, and we're going to talk to Bob Iger later, were at $172 a share. Today they're at almost half. Paramount was at $42 a share. Now it's at $14 a share. When your deal closed, the stock was at 24. Today we're about 10 something, right? So when you think back to that time, do you say to yourself, what do you say to yourself? And do you say that the thesis for all of this was right?
Well, it was about 20 months ago. Very exciting 20 months. But when we took over, our objective was we were going to put together these two great creative companies. And I feel stronger about the assets that we have now than when we did the deal. CNN, sports with TNT around the world, where if you put your TV set on, 30 to 40% of America is watching us any given night. HBO, Max, we're the biggest maker of content in the world with Warner Brothers TV and Warner Brothers Motion Pictures. And so as a storytelling company, a pure storytelling company, and that's really unusual. Most of the players that we compete with, they might be in the broadband business, the cable business, the retail business, the phone business. We're just a creative storytelling company. And we're so diverse. We're even in games. And so we have this great menu of content. So the magical coming together of these two companies as all this diverse, great storytelling, I think is stronger for us today. The challenge is, when you look at when we took over 20 months ago, we were looking at bringing these two companies together, but the industry was in disruption. And so when we first came together, Warner was spending $35 billion on content. $36 billion is what they were spending. But they were making less than that, and so they were losing money. And the industry was very frothy. Everyone was spending an awful lot on content, and everyone was chasing subs. And so we went through, we had a very strong strategic plan that we need to build a healthy company. And here we are 20 months later. The company paid back, as you said, $12 billion in debt. We had to make a lot of very difficult decisions, and we had to move a lot faster than we probably wanted to, because this is a generational disruption, what's going on in our industry.
Tell me what you feel like about it personally. And the reason I ask you personally is, here you are, you get to the top of the mountain. I said you're now the media titan, but the view at the top of the mountain is not as good as it used to be. I don't know what titan is. These are great seats. And I think this opportunity that we have, and I say this to my team all the time, that we want to be in a moment of disruption. The most formative moment for me was I went to work for Jack Welch to build the cable group. That was a disruptive moment. Instead of just broadcast, was cable going to make it? Was it going to transform the way people consume content? And for 2 or 3 or 4 years, it wasn't working. It was really hard.
We had to will it to happen. Then I went to, and in fact, when NBC was sold to Comcast, Jack called me because there was a lot of people during those 4 years that was saying, this is too hard, it's not going to work. 80% of the value of NBC Universal at that point was cable. And so, right now we're at a very hard time that requires hard decisions. And many of them are unpopular. Look, when we got in, we were spending, it was very frothy. We were spending over $1 billion on direct-to-streaming movies. It's very difficult to come in. We looked for a couple of months. What are we getting? Are we gaining subs? Are we just creating value? We blew the whistle, and we said, direct-to-streaming movies don't work. There's a whole industry that was making money on that, and it was really hard. We also said that these streaming services need to make money.
Right. Speak to this, though. You are a guy who I think thinks of yourself as somebody who has great relationships. You have a lot of relationships throughout the business. And part of being a creative is having those relationships. That matters. But at the same time, you now have all this debt that you have to service.
Right.
And here you are. And I think that there's almost a battle happening between those two ideas, the creative side of this and the money side of this right now. And I want to know what that's like in your head, because you've had to make decisions that have been very unpopular. You said it. There was a headline that called you the most hated man in Hollywood. And here you are, as I said, at the top of the mountain, and you're reading these articles, and I just wonder what you think about that. Well, personally, like when you go home at night and talk to your wife, what do you say?
Yeah. I'm lucky. I met my wife in high school. We've been married for 37 years, and we talk about the kids and the grandkids. And we talk about how lucky we are and how lucky I am. It's not personal. This is a generational disruption. The way people consume content, on what platform, what do they want to watch, long form, short form, are they still going to be going to the movies? It's a very scary time. It's a scary time to be running a company, but it's also an exciting time because everything's possible. But I'm in the seat. I got a great leadership team, and we got a chance to do something when we took over the company. We said, no sacred cows. Let's start today. What does this business look like if we were going to start today? What content do we need? What content is going to help us? How many people do we need? What should HBO look like? What should Warner Brothers look like? And so we were the first ones through. If you saw Moneyball, Billy Beane, first ones through. But the trepidation and the concern in the industry was there already. Everyone felt the transition. And so, we blew the whistle on a lot of the spending. We focused on, we needed a healthy company. This year, we generated $5 billion in free cash flow in the trailing last 12 months. We're a real company now. We needed to get healthy, and we needed to build a real business around this company in order to deal with this,
right.
The continuing change we're going to see.
So part of what you had to do, or part of the things you did do, and I know there's a debate about whether you had to do them or not, was you killed a lot of projects. Some that had already been made, including Batgirl, which was become a famous headline at this point.
Right.
What was that day like for you? You have to call the creatives. They spend $80, $90 million on this film, spend years of their life doing it. Okay. And you have to say, you know what? We're putting this thing in the can, and nobody's ever going to watch it again. And part of that is this idea of accounting, which we should talk about, too, how that accounting works.
Well, first, there are a lot of great days. This is a great job. And the opportunity it's the best creatives in the world in Hollywood. We have an incredible creative team. DC, Harry Potter, HBO. How do we launch Max around the world? What are we going to renew the NBA? It's an incredibly exciting job. And there's a lot of great days. There are a lot of tough days. We've had to do, I remember our first big layoff. It was brutal. It was brutal. But Warner Brothers and Time Warner and even Discovery, these are companies that had never really been restructured for the future. And so we really decided that we have to have courage. And we got to figure out how to restructure these businesses for the future. And part of that was, let's take a hard look at Warner Brothers, and not just me, as a leadership team, at HBO, at Food and HG, at TNT, at TBS. What content is going to help us win? And we held on to all the content that we thought would be helpful to us. And the content that wasn't, we made a strategic decision on. And it was difficult. And it was painful. But I think it was the right decision for the company, and it was necessary.
For those who don't understand it, can you explain just how the accounting works? Because there's been a lot of projects that have been taken off the shelf and have been put away and stored forever. And I think people are always trying to understand, why do you do that? Could you sell it to somebody else? Maybe take a loss on it from something else and write that off?
The accounting piece is really a misnomer. If we produce a show that's a movie that's $100 million or a show that's $100 million, we've spent the $100 million. And if we don't air it, then it's gone. We don't make it have any real benefit from it. The question is, should we take certain of these movies and open them in the theater and spend another $30 or $40 million to promote them? And the Warner Brothers team and HBO made a number of decisions. They were hard. But when I look at the health of our company today, we needed to make those decisions. And it took real courage. And if you look back now, a lot of the things that we did, it's not about how many subs. When we took over, there was a focus on getting a lot of subs and spending a lot of money. It was very frothy. The capital markets had run away with Netflix as the leader, and the industry was following. And so when we came in, we really had to look at the core business economics. And we have a really strong, healthy company now. And that allows us to invest more and focus on what's really important, which is take Max around the world, produce great content, and tell great stories.
I still want to go back to the relationship thing for just a moment, because you have so many relationships, and I think you value relationships. When you first started at this job, you went to L.A., and you tried to meet with as many people. You went on a listening tour.
Right.
I'm so curious, and Barry Diller told you not to go on this listening tour, right? He said this was a terrible idea because you were going to have to make decisions that were going to hurt those creatives.
We made a lot of decisions. First, I didn't agree with Barry, but I agree with Barry about a lot of things. But, my job as a CEO is to get to know the business. That's why I went out and I spoke to everybody that I could about the motion picture business and the scripted business, and what did they learn and what mistakes did they make, and to listen. And in the end, I think I got smarter. It was also helpful in building the creative team that we have. And it's important for me. I also went to LA and spent the year inside the green light of the motion pictures at HBO, and really understanding how those businesses put together. Now I have leaders and I can step back, but I think it was very important for me to get out there.
What do you wish someone on that listening tour had told you that they didn't now?
The disruption to this business right now is harder and faster than we ever imagined. And I would think if I could start over, we had this strategic plan, and it really worked. We now have real free cash flow, a good balance sheet. We're investing in strong content. We have a leadership team. But as the first year ended, we really thought we were getting close to the shore, and we were getting there. But this disruption, this idea of people consuming content on TikTok, going to different streaming services, it is a generational disruption. And it required more aggressive, tougher, faster decisions. And if I had to do it again, I would have liked to have been clearer with my team about how hard this is going to be, because it was, and with outside, that we as an industry need to make this change so that we have profitable business models, so that we can invest in more content, more stories.
You told us, I assume Barbie is probably your best day on the job. What was your worst day on the job so far?
The worst day on the job was the first day that we laid off a huge number of people. A lot of people that I knew and worked with for many years, a lot of people I respected. The business had changed. It used to be that you could have 80, 100 people at every cable channel. Now you have one marketing team running all of it. So we had to restructure the entire business. People is the toughest thing.
I thought you might say something about Chris Licht.
Great guy. Talented guy.
I believe Chris is actually here in the room. I don't know where he is. Maybe over there. There he is.
Chris. Chris is a good friend. There were a lot of great days. There was a lot of tough days. But Chris has had a lot of great days. He created Morning Joe. He created CBS This Morning. We had a lot of fun and a lot of battles together, and Chris is going to have a lot of great chapters, and hopefully some of those with us at Warner Brothers. Very talented.
Can I ask you about Jeff Zucker?
Sure.
He was one of your best friends in the whole business, not just in business, but in life. And it appears that relationship fractured.
I wouldn't say it fractured. In the end, I believe that you want to foster friendships, but you have to make the decision that's the best for the business. And if you have a best friend and they have a great script, if the Warner Brothers team don't think that's the best storytelling vehicle that we should go with, right, then you have to put the friendships aside.
How hard is that for you? How hard is that for you in your head? Because that's hard for everybody. By the way, everybody here is trying to figure out who their friends are all the time. Everybody. Who are your friends? Who are your real friends? Who are your business friends? Are the business friends real friends? Yeah. By the way, in Hollywood, it's worse.
Well, I don't know about that. I've been very lucky in life. I still have loads of friends from high school. My wife and I went to school together. I have loads of friends. You and I are close friends. I started CNBC, and all the people that work with you in the morning, Becky and Joe, are still very close friends of mine. You know who your friends are, and you're also friendly with a lot of people. But you can't mix the two. And sometimes when you make a business decision, or sometimes when the business decision is made by your team, your friends can take it personally. They can feel that you should have interceded. And sometimes, it's unfortunate, but it is emotional. It's emotional for me. I'd like to always say yes to my friends. The good news is within our company now, we got a great leadership team. So for me, I'm mostly supporting Casey Bloys at HBO and Channing Dungey at Warner Brothers Television. My job is to coach and support them.
Let me ask you this. The strike. Big labor issue that's been taking place. It's still not over, really. But when it came to the writers, you said this in the New York Times very recently. You said that the writers were right about almost everything. You said, so what if we overpay? I've never regretted overpaying for great talent or great asset. Was it a waste? Was it the wrong decision to go to war with the writers and go to war effectively with the actors?
I think the idea of going on a strike was bad for all of us. And this idea that the industry is changing, that's one of the reasons why we went on strike, why the writers went on strike and why the actors went on strike, because we needed to battle over issues. If this was years ago, we know exactly how the model for cable and broadcast works. We know exactly what are the economics, and we could see who gets what economics. We're in this new world now. What is the value of Succession or House of the Dragon on HBO? And it's much harder to determine that when you have streaming services losing money. Ours is now making money, but it's an existential moment. What is the impact of AI? So there were a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of trepidation in the industry. Like when you see the lens of people wanting to write a lot about the industry right now, and sometimes they do it through me, through my seat, it's because this is an incredibly interesting time. Everything is possible. With the assets that we have, there's going to be big winners and big losers. But the strike, I believe what I said. When I spoke to Fran and Duncan before, I said, I agree with a lot of what you're saying.
But then
we have to figure out AI.
Not fought it, though?
And we have to figure out how to compensate on these new models, because we don't know
Could it have all been done without the strike, then?
I wish it could have, and I'm glad that it's behind us now. And it's imperfect. The decisions that we made on each of those there was a lot of uncertainty in it, but we figured out how to make it work together.
What was it like for you personally? Because the other thing that happened during that period was people would look at you and say, you are paid a lot of money. You were paid a lot of money. And you heard this over and over again from the strikers, the writers, the actors were saying, look at this guy. He's getting paid tens of millions of dollars a year, and we're over here. How did you deal with that personally? And how do you even think about that in sort of like cosmic, philosophical perspective about compensation?
My focus was we need to settle this strike. This is hurting, really hurting people. We got to figure out how to get in a room. Any deal that I've ever done.
Did that hurt you? And me personally,
every day that we were on strike and people weren't working was a bad day for us. But I did fight, and Bob Iger, there was a group of us. We got to get in a room. We need to figure out how to get this how to get this settled.
I'm curious about this. This is maybe a corporate governance question. Your compensation actually changed this year, and the board of Warner Brothers Discovery, John Malone, has been advocating, as we said, for you, free cash flow, free cash flow, free cash flow, pay down the debt, pay down the debt, pay down the debt. And they've effectively delinked, to some degree, your compensation from the stock price, per se, and focused it now on how quickly you can create that free cash flow to pay down the debt. Some people look at that and say that's a fabulous decision because it is going to incentivize you to pay down the debt. Others say, well, are you aligned with the shareholders in the same way? Does the board know something that the market doesn't? What do you think of that?
The board went and spoke to investors, and the existential issue for our company was to pay down the debt, get a solid balance sheet, and have a company that generates real free cash flow. If you look around the media business, you have streaming services losing billions of dollars, companies losing money. And the key for us, the artillery that we needed that was existential, we need a healthy company that makes real profitability and real free cash flow. And so they made the decision to create for the entire leadership team an incentive to say, pay that debt down, generate free cash flow. And it worked. The whole leadership team got behind it, and we generated in the last 12 months over $5 billion of free cash flow.
We're going to hear from Lena Khan later today. Everybody's talking about the chessboard that is media, and you are a chess piece on that board. And whether there is ultimately a merger that needs to happen, whether it be with the parent Comcast, I should say parent company of CNBC and NBC, given my relationship there, but also whether you want to buy Paramount, whether Paramount goes over here. Hulu just obviously went to Disney. How do you see this? Do you feel like you have to do a deal in the next year? And by the way, all of a sudden, there's that opportunity to do a merger come this spring, given some of the rules and laws around when your first transaction took place.
We're in a position now to really attack for growth this next year. We fixed our balance sheet. We paid down a lot of our debt. And we have a great creative team in place. And the bouquet of content that we have, the diversity of what we have.
But do you
HBO,
does that mean you want to be a buyer? Does that mean you're a buyer? Would the market kill you if you bought something right now?
Well, I think we have everything that we need. We just launched News and Sports on Max. We really focused, and it was hard. We focused this year on relaunching a new product, Max, and we're taking it out globally.
But if somebody came to you and said they want to buy you, by the way, Barry Diller also said maybe it's not a traditional media company or even a tech company. He said maybe it's the Saudis. And he said, don't laugh.
Every public company technically is for sale. From our perspective, we're positioned now. Next year for us is for growth. It's to invest in more content. It's to grow Max around the world. It's to build the profitability of Max. And it's to position this company in this difficult time so that we have options. Options of spending more money on content, which we're looking at doing, to invest in more of our businesses. And over time, if there are other assets that we need. But I think we have everything that we need right now.
I want to talk about sports, and then I want to open up for questions. I see Matt Blank, former president of Showtime, and so many others in the media business. You're sitting with Mr. Moscow, formerly of Sony, as well. Sports, NBA, the rights are coming up. How critical is it to the affiliate fees in your business? Meaning, if you don't get the NBA, how much do you worry that the cable operators are going to say, you know what, David? These are very nice assets. We like having them. We just don't like to pay for them the way we used to.
Look, I love the sports business. 10 years ago, we went to Europe and we bought Eurosport, and then we rolled up most of the sport in Europe. We have the Olympics. It's been very helpful to us in building our European business. And you look at our sport portfolio now in Europe and Latin America, it's very strong, mostly football, but we also have the Olympics and tennis and cycling in Europe. And it's been very helpful in growing our business because in the world of when people could watch anything, the sport has become really compelling. In the U.S., we're very strong. We have March Madness. We also have hockey. We have baseball.
So you don't need the NBA? Is that what you're trying to say?
We like the NBA.
Okay.
But one of the issues with sports is when it comes to CNN, we own CNN. When it comes to DC and Harry Potter and HBO, we own all that. When it comes to all the shows that we produce, right. Abbott Elementary and Ted Lasso, we own all that. The only product that we rent at Warner Brothers Discovery is sports. And when you rent a product, It's always harder. Because if we do something great with Lord of the Rings, it belongs to us.
Right.
When we do something great with sport, we get to enjoy it and benefit from it until the deal is up.
Right.
And then when the deal is up, you got to get you get new rent. And so we're talking to Adam now. We've had a 40-year relationship.
Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA.
With the NBA. We have Shaq and Barkley. We've got a great pregame and postgame. In the end, it has to make economic sense. And one of the reasons that we launched it on Max is we need to find a bridge forward.
Final question from me, and then I think we're going to have to wrap it up, which is about CNN. Mark Thompson is now the CEO of CNN, formerly the CEO of the New York Times. As we said, Chris Licht used to be the CEO, and he's here.
Exceptional leader, ground-up leader, great track record. He ran the BBC for 8 years. He turned around the Times, and he got into CNN, which I think is the greatest journalistic organization in the world. And he's there in the morning. He's on the 9 o'clock call. He's in the control room, and he's won the hearts and minds of the team.
Are you still?
And CNN is.
But do you feel like you have to change the tone? Still trying to change the tone of CNN. Part of this all of the agita inside CNN stemmed from some of the early comments that John Malone made about needing to change what it was. By the way, some of the comments that you probably made, and some of the comments that Chris probably made about what directionally CNN was supposed to look like.
I think it was driven by the strategic question of, should news networks be advocacy networks or should news networks be journalistic organizations?
And do you think that's changed?
And it's really a strategic choice. It isn't good or bad. For CNN, the choice was this should be it is the greatest journalistic organization in the world. And you're seeing it today. When a couple of weeks ago when the tanks started rolling on Moscow, there was one network everywhere in the world carrying that. And it was on in every prime minister's office, in every embassy, everywhere in the world. Others were at a desk. We had 60 people on the ground. Right now we are documenting history. Mark Thompson and that incredible leadership team, they're in Ukraine, they're in Israel, they're in Gaza, they're risking their lives. This is a legacy asset for Warner Brothers Discovery. It's critically important to us. As a country, it's important to us as we struggle with these world issues that we document what's going on in the world. And we're doing it at CNN with the very best journalists. Mark Thompson's doing a terrific job. It's not just that the ratings are up. It's not just that prime time is up. It's that when people want to know from a trusted source what's going on in the world, CNN is back.
Okay. David Zaslav, I want to thank you for joining us today. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Thank you.